Hey everyone, this is Neon. Welcome to Impromptu English with Neon. Today I'm going to carry over from the previous video, which was 6 frequently asked IELTS reading questions. Today I'm going to add one more to that, that is 7. 7 frequently asked IELTS reading questions. So let's start. And here where are we actually, Sanjida? We are outside of our home. Show them the view. It's time to start.
What is the easiest and what is the most difficult question type in IELTS reading?
So I cannot say the answer right now because it's too blinding. The sun is too blinding. Come, follow me. So the easiest IELTS reading question would definitely have to be fill in the blanks, particularly when there are some clues. Fill in the blanks with clues. So that means that not only do you have the whole context of the questions, like where it comes from, you get the idea. It's very easy to scan for it. What is scanning again? It means to look at where the location of the passage where the actual answer is. So it's very easy to scan for fill in the blanks questions. And if there are some clues, you don't even need to look at the passage sometimes. You can just guess what the answer could be. However, there is a catch. The catch is that if the fill in the blanks with clues come at the end of the reading test, that means question number 37, 38, something like that, sometimes it's very difficult. So it's not the fault of the question type, but when it comes in the reading test, if it comes at the end, it will be a little bit difficult, but overall, fill in the blanks with clues, that's the answer.
What happens if my answer is correct but the spelling is incorrect?
Then you'll not get the mark. You'll get a 0 for that question. If you got the answer but the spelling, even one letter is wrong, then the whole answer will be marked as incorrect. So definitely you should practice your spelling. The good news is that not many difficult spellings will be there, and it's a reading test, so the actual word will be in the passage. So you don't have to guess for the spelling. You can just see the passage and double check whether the spelling is correct or not.
Can I skip the difficult questions so I can focus on the easier ones?
So I assume that you're asking about whether you can skip some heading match questions or information match questions. Many of my students come to me and say that, Neon sir, can I skip those questions because I feel like MCQs and fill in the blanks, they are easier compared to heading match or information match questions. So I would say, no, don't miss any questions. But if it's too hard, then just guess some of the answers, especially if it's an MCQ question or it's a heading match or information match questions. Even if you guess, there are no negative marks, so you should guess them if they're too hard for you. Don't skip.
Let's say I have spent 20 minutes on the first passage. Should I move on to the next passage right away?
So you mean that before finishing the whole answers of that passage, you are thinking of moving to the next
Yeah,
passage?
because I already spent that 20
Yeah,
minutes. I have
understood what you mean.
allocated 20 minutes.
So you see, they will not take away your reading passage 1 after 20 minutes, right? If you want, theoretically, you can spend the whole 60 minutes on it, but of course, that should not be the ideal way. So I would say that no, don't skip to the next passage without finishing all the answers of the current passage. Let's say you're on passage 1, you have already spent 20 minutes and you have answered 10 out of the 13 questions. So you have 3 more questions left. Do not completely skip them. Just guess an answer. Maybe if you keep trying, a lot of time will be wasted. So yes, do not just spend 10 more minutes on those 3 questions, but maybe spend 1 minute per question. If you cannot do that, just guess those answers and move on to the next passage. But don't leave them empty, because if you get a wrong answer, there are no negative marks. So just try them and then move on to the next passage without completely skipping to the next passage.
Okay, but should I spend more time in the last passage?
So yes, the last passage is actually more difficult than the first 2 passages. Usually the last passage is the most difficult, but sometimes the second passage is also very, very difficult, even more than the third passage. But usually the last passage is the most difficult. So you are required to spend more time in the last passage to get the same level of performance, because that's the difficulty level. So you can think of it like this. You can spend 13 to 15 minutes. Some people even complete the first passage within 12 minutes. So you can spend about 15 minutes or less in the first passage. That means you have more time for the passages number 2 and 3. For passage 2 maybe you need 20 minutes, but because you have 5 more minutes or maybe even more for the last passage, you can spend 22 or 23 minutes for that passage, and you have 1 or 2 minutes left to revise. That's the way you should go.
Are IELTS passages ever repeated from the past?
I see. So in Bangladesh and also in many South Asian countries, I know, maybe in also other parts of the world, we practice the previous question paper so that we can get some common questions. So it may happen in speaking that some of the questions are repeated. Also in writing, some parts of the questions may be repeated, but in reading, nothing, not a single passage will be repeated from the previous question papers. Let's say you practice Cambridge 11, 12, 13, 14, everything up until Cambridge 19, which is the latest one. Still you will not get any similarity of the exact passage. Of course the pattern will be the similar, but not the exact passage or the questions.
Okay, so the last question is, between the computer based test and the paper based test, which one is better for the exam?
I would say 100% the computer based test is better for the reading section. Overall the computer based test
reading.
is better, but particularly for reading I would say it's very advantageous, very beneficial if you take the computer based test.
What
Why is
about
that?
listening?
For listening also I would say computer based, but that is 50-50, or you can say it depends on the person whether he or she is comfortable with the computer or pen and paper. For listening I would say both are, like, you could say equal. But for reading I would say the computer based is much better. Let me give you some reasons. Number one, the timer will be there. You don't always have to look at the clock. That's a small advantage. A big advantage is that the passage will be on the same page as the questions. You can make the questions bigger or smaller. There is a tab slider. You can make the slider a little bit bigger to the passage size so that the passage is more visible. And the questions are in one small row, or you can make it equal 50-50. The default version is that 50-50. Half of the page is the reading passage, the left hand corner, and the right hand corner is the place for the questions. It is supremely beneficial for it to be this way. Why? Because you don't have to flip through the pages to check the questions. What used to happen to me when I used to practice with the paper-based test is that I used to get lost. I used to first read the questions and then go to the passages. I used to forget. Oh no, what was the question about? I used to have to go back to the questions time and time again. Not only once, maybe sometimes twice or thrice. I think it's a common phenomenon. It happens to many people. So it's not a problem in the computer-based test because it's on the same page. You can, in one glance, you can look at the questions on the right side and also look at the passage on the left side. If you want to scroll down to the reading passage, you can just scroll down to that side, but the questions will remain. If you want to scroll down to the reading questions, the questions will scroll down, but the passage will remain. So you can independently do that. I think that is one of the biggest advantages of the computer-based test. And also, I have a separate video on how the computer-based test has 13 advantages. Actually 14 advantages and only 4 disadvantages over the paper-based test. You can also check that video out. And thank you so much for watching this video. And if you enjoy, please like and subscribe, and hope you stay with me on my journey to become more fluent in English.